now we're talking to Lara Trump, co-chair of the Republican National Committee. Lara, how are you today?
Hey, I'm doing well considering that they're trying to rip our country apart. But, that's why we're out here fighting single day.
Another day at work. I want to ask about the voter registration gains. That was the main reason I want to talk to you. But first things first here. We got to talk about Barron. Because when did Barron become a 6'7" Adonis Ralph Lauren model?
Well,
what happened?
Yeah, well, look at his parents. First of all, Melania is one of the most beautiful women in the entire world, and I'll go back to the fact that it was an atrocity that she did not grace the cover of every major magazine while she was First Lady of the United States. It was just an abomination, of course. So obviously he gets his looks there. And then I'll tell you what, my father-in-law's not a bad-looking guy either. The height is pretty impressive, though. I don't know how all of a sudden we're growing him so tall, but he has surpassed my husband my husband was the tallest in the entire family. And now it really messes with me when we're with Barron because I have to look up at my husband and then up again at Barron. It's not right.
That'll hurt your neck. 6'7" will mess you up. But he's got like this steely-eyed. You're like, oh, you're going to take over the world, this guy. This kid has something about it. It's unbelievable. That's what my wife said last night. It looks like a Ralph Lauren model. But we bring it up, and he's in the news now. And is it like, why? He's a kid, right? He's 17. But he's been quiet throughout all of this stuff. Why?
Yeah.
What's his personality like?
Barron is incredibly smart. That when you say that he may take over the world one day, I wouldn't put it past him. He's quiet because he knows that he's far superior to any of these lunatics out there. He doesn't need to get in the fray. I think initially it was a protective thing, probably starting with Melania whenever they were in the White House. That's a lot for a young kid to deal with, of course, especially whenever the media is savagely trying to attack your entire family. And so he kind of stayed in the background and kept quiet. But he's incredibly bright. He's graduating, I think, top of his class, and hopefully my father-in-law will be able to be there. But you know what? He's a sleeper. That's what I call those kind. He's a sleeper. Look out for him. When he bursts on the scene, and one day he will, nobody's safe. He's going to take it over.
No, no joke. Like that, I'm waiting for that day. And just to grow up in the White House, it's a very different experience than your husband and the other kids, of course. Because he would have been 9 or so. Because that's the last time I saw Barron is when he was like falling asleep on election night when you were all up on stage and he was like dozing off. It's like, yeah, it's late and you're 9, and now he is not. All right, let's talk about the voter registration edge that you guys, the Republicans now have here, which is amazing. Florida's the big one. The Democrats in 2020 had 100,000 edge, and now Republicans have a 900,000 edge. That's the biggest. But let's look at like a state like Pennsylvania. So 4 years ago, the Democrats had a 700,000 edge, and now they have a 400,000 edge. So still down. Republicans are still down, but gaining a lot of momentum. How did that happen?
Well, we're really cutting into their voter registration in a big way. In, as you point out, Florida, Pennsylvania, Arizona, North Carolina, Nevada. These are really important states. And I think that you have incredible people out there like a Scott Pressler who on his own, accord has gone out and started doing these things. But we are actively engaging with people all across this country, and we are making sure from the RNC perspective that we are in these important states, that we are registering voters, that we are additionally everywhere we can legally do it, ballot harvesting, and talking to people about things like early voting and mail-in voting. However you can vote and as early as you can vote, we want you to go do that. It's about being engaged in the community. It's about working alongside the grassroots of this country. And we have some incredible grassroots organizations out there. We're partnering up with them from the RNC, and we're making sure that we leave no stone unturned because this is a must-win election. So we have to pull out all the stops. And I think what you're going to see is in these important swing states and the 19 key counties across this country, we have made strides, and we are working hard and very diligently every day to ensure that on November 5th, there is no question Donald Trump will be reelected as president of the United States. We expand our lead in the House, and we take back the Senate.
I only mentioned this because you just mentioned Scott Pressler, and you mentioned him last time we chatted too. I came across this headline a couple weeks ago from NBC News. Scott Pressler, a conservative activist who has spread conspiracy theories, won't be getting an RNC job. So they made it seem as if you guys have you have a beef between you
No,
two.
of course. Well, of course they did. It's NBC News. What do you expect these people to say? They're trying to stir the pot. Let me be really clear. We are partnering every legal way we can with Scott Pressler's organization from the RNC. I actually had a very frank conversation with Scott, several weeks ago, right after I took the role as co-chair of the RNC. And I said, what do you want to do? Would you want to come on board? And Scott is such an incredible human. He said, I will do whatever we need to win, but I've spent the past few years developing my own organization, and I have such a great reach across this country. I would hate to close up shop and totally abandon that. And I said, great, let's work alongside one another. So, of course, this just shows you how dishonest the media truly is. I want everyone to fully appreciate that. They don't really care about anything except spreading lies. And they're the ones who always talk about disinformation, misinformation. They're the key purveyors of dis and misinformation within the mainstream media. It's really sick. But no, we're very excited to work along Scott and his organization, and we're quite frankly lucky to have him on our team.
So getting people registered. Some of these states still down. North Carolina, Democrats still have a 170,000 edge. Nevada still have a 32,000 edge. Again, Pennsylvania still Democrats have a 400,000 voter edge. Is it too late to get people to register? And also, is this more of an RNC thing, or is this more of a local Pennsylvania thing, or is it more of like a Bucks County, Pennsylvania thing? Who registers people to vote?
Yeah, well, listen, you can do it from all those fronts for sure. And there does come a day where you have to stop registering voters. That will, you'll have to close up shop on that at a certain point. But that said, we're all engaged together. And I think that the beauty of the moment we're in right now is it really does feel like we are all facing the same direction on the Republican side, and we all understand what's at stake, and we all understand what we have to do. So we're coordinating with everybody we can, whether it's at the local or the state level. From the RNC, we're deploying people across the country. We have groups of people throughout America. Obviously, these RNC offices throughout the country. We have our committee members across the country. Everyone is actively engaged in this right now because, like I said, I think we feel it. I think it's palpable right now that we cannot allow the Democrats to succeed in this election. You look at what they're doing to a man like Donald Trump. You look at this complete sham show trial that's completely meritless that they're putting him through right now. Yet another one. If they are successful in their communist attempts to thwart the will of the people by removing Donald Trump as an option for president of the United States, if they are able to win this election and continue to destroy our country, we're not going to have a country left on the other side of this. So it all boils down to us doing everything we can from the RNC, partnering with our friends at the local level, as you just said, to make sure we continue to register people up until the day that registration closes. And then we have to get people mobilized to get out and vote. And believe me, we have a huge operation underway for that, as well as a huge operation for election integrity, because I think those two things are going to be the keys: getting people out to vote and protecting that vote. Those are our two objectives from the RNC, and we're focused on them like a hawk every single day.
Totally. We're talking to Lara Trump, of course, co-chair of the RNC. So I'm most worried. They're all big. Wisconsin, Michigan, we focus a lot on those states. I think Pennsylvania, at least from my perspective, Pennsylvania seems to be a big hurdle and kind of a sleeper. I don't hear people talk about Pennsylvania a lot. And I'm worried about Pennsylvania, too, because at the end of 2020 election, what was it exactly? It was something about oil. Like it was like a big oil conversation. And Trump was like, Biden's going to cancel all the oil drilling. And he's like, no, I'm not. I never said that. And like we had all these videos of him saying, I'm going to cancel all the drilling. And he still won. Western Pennsylvania won, at least in quotes, Western Pennsylvania. And you're like, what the heck, Pennsylvania? Do you have any insight into specifically dealing with that wonderful state that I used to live in?
Yeah, well, we actually just won a big lawsuit in Pennsylvania. No shock here. The Democrats were trying to make it easier to cheat in that state. They wanted to remove the dates from mail-in balloting, and that is a huge problem. We sued them. We just won a little over a week ago that lawsuit, and that gives us precedent, by the way, across the entire country. We can apply that to every single state in our union and say, hey, Pennsylvania ruled in our favor. They said you do have to have signature verification. You do have to have the dates on these mail-in ballots. So we're working actively, and we're looking at every avenue in which the Democrats have had any sort of advantage. And I say that kind of in jest, because the advantage that Democrats have had has really come by way of doing things that are really nefarious and are not totally on the up and up. in Pennsylvania. I don't think I have to tell this audience that at all. So we are strategically going through that state and looking at every single county and every voting district, and we are making sure that we make it harder to cheat and easier to vote for people. We're working, with a great team of lawyers who are reviewing things like that specific thing. I just mentioned that specific lawsuit that we just won. And listen, I think one of the things we also have to do is loud and clear tell people we are looking out for you to cheat. And if we catch you cheating, we will prosecute you to the full extent of the law. Don't do it. It is not worth it. It's not worth risking your freedom and helping the Democrats cheat in any way, shape, or form. We're going to have an election integrity team that's been the first of its kind ever at the RNC. We want people to come volunteer, not just to be poll watchers, but poll workers. These are people trained to physically handle ballots. We want attorneys. DonaldJTrump.com, GOP.com, and ProtectTheVote.com. You can sign up all three websites to help us in our election integrity program. We have boots on the ground. We have people there every single voting precinct, and we want to rotate them on a regular basis so that we watch like a hawk for everything going on. Obviously, we need to catch up in some voter registration. Obviously, we're going to do everything we can on that front. But I think the name of the game when it comes to Pennsylvania is looking out for any nefarious activity. And believe me, we are very focused on that state.